Splatoon 3 is full of many fun and crazy levels, and today I wanted to take all the levels within the story mode itself and pretty much make a list of the top 10 best stages in Splatoon 3. I have 100%ed the story mode, which means I've had to play lots of the levels multiple times, and I even went back and played through the whole thing an extra time just to make sure that I went through every stage and got my final verdict. Now, some of you guys might realize some good stages, in my opinion, were not chosen, and because my kind of criteria this time around revolved around it being unique, something that's fun, unique, and not necessarily super easy to complete, and lots of that takes away from stages that were already used in the Octo expansion. For instance, I'll give you an example right now. The stage where you had to copy the box template from the other side of the room was really cool, but it's something that we've already seen, I think, a couple of times within the Octo expansion, so to me, it wasn't really worth being on this list. Once again, guys, these are just based on my opinion, so definitely let me know in the comments down below what your favorite levels were, and if we had any alike. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked today's video, leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Splatoon 3, and let's get into the video. Coming in at number 10, I've actually combined all of the Zipcaster levels because these are so much fun. They're pretty easy to complete because you can just spam the arm whenever you want if you're falling off of something, but I found these stages to be so much fun and shows the movement of this special altogether. You can literally turn into Tom Holland's Spider-Man and fly around the map, unless you want to be Andrew Garfield's or Tobey Maguire. I like Andrew Garfield. Anyways, being an Inkling Spider-Man is actually tons of fun because it lasts unlimited, and you get to just kind of use this all over the stage in combination with your gun, which just makes this so much fun. You can even time yourself and do like little speed runs just blasting through the stage as fast as you can. This thing is a lot of fun, and I really love these missions. Coming in at number 9, we have Dive and Dash. This one was super unique to me because instead of actually having you run around the stage and ink everything in order to move, all the ink was already laid out, and it's your job to race the clock. Yep, you're just swimming, and I found this to be really cool and unique and something we haven't seen yet. I would have loved to see more stages like this, and as the stage isn't anything crazy, it's a really cool concept that I would love to see in more levels. Could you imagine kind of a Metroid-like ending where you had to escape a room or escape some type of building before it exploded, and you're just kind of swimming through this ink? It's really cool with the new squid movement as well, because you can squid surge real fast and even squid roll to make quicker movements where you need to go. I really like this. It was just kind of like a race with yourself, and as it never really gave me a true challenge, it was really fun to go through this little obstacle course. Braille Pass is one that we definitely have seen before within the past Splatoon games, even Splatoon 1, but the way they handled it this time around, I thought was super fun. There was multiple different rails to jump to. There were lots of obstacles where you had to jump over certain things in order to land on other rails and go from the top rail to the bottom rail and stuff. The end of the stage is my favorite. It's a giant rail maze where you can't just shoot these rails to activate them. You have to use your splat bombs, and it's really, really cool. There's also a really cool part where you have to fling yourself off of the rail in order to toss a splat bomb into the higher platform, which is just brilliant level design. The stage Charge Now, Splat Later is so fun. It's probably the most satisfying stage in the game. You get to use the Goo Tuber, which allows you to stay in the ink for an incredibly long amount of time before you fire your Goo Tuber sniper shot. And what's so fun about this is going up against Octarian army and just kind of sneaking up to them and blasting them with this thing is so much fun. And you actually have to utilize the hiding in ink mechanic, and it just really shows you how fun this weapon can be when you really master it in the multiplayer. This is so much fun. You'll blast up in the air from launch pads and just be able to snipe Octarians from high platforms, and it just feels so satisfying jumping off of rails and boost pads. This is a really satisfying level, and it's really just some like sniper's ASMR. Number 6, we have Compulsive Collector, where you and your ink brush have to go around this giant maze full of dots as you get chased by sprinkler bots. What does this sound like? Yeah, this is actually a Pac-Man reference, which I love so much. Using this ink brush, you get to just fly through this stage, and it is so much fun. There's even little ink refills at the corners of the maze, just like Pac-Man, and it's just an awesome callback to that game because it's fun to actually do in Splatoon. It's not just a boring callback that doesn't work. It works extremely well with this game, and in fact, it's actually pretty difficult. I found myself really racing the clock because I kept getting corner trapped by these sprinklers, and man, I barely beat it with just like literally a second to spare because I couldn't find the last power egg. This was a really fun callback and also a challenging one. This is going to make absolutely no sense sense to some people, but relic restoration was so much fun. Using the Explosher to paint this giant Easter Island head was actually some of the most fun I've had in Splatoon in years, and it doesn't make any sense. Even watching this gameplay over again, I don't know why I had so much fun doing this, but just painting something in Splatoon turned out to be one of the most, relaxing, fun things that I've done in a while. This was kind of like D-Blob. If you've ever played that game, this is kind of what it reminded me of, and it was just relaxing. No timer, there's no enemies, there's nothing really challenging about it, there's nothing trying to hurt you. It's just some funny dialogue from Callie, Marie, and the Orca system, and obviously you just painting this giant Easter Island head. That's really about it. But yet, it makes me wish that there was like 10 more missions of this with different weapons and stuff. Could you imagine trying to paint this thing with just like an ink brush or something? This would be so much fun. I mean, seriously, I would even like a whole like side game mode from Splatoon in the next game where it's just painting different things from, humans past. This was so much fun. Please tell me I'm not the only one on this. Space Center Hangar was something that I definitely wanted to see from this game and didn't even realize it. They combined all of the specials in this game for fun ways to take out the Octarians, and they even set them up in such a way where each special feels really good to use against them. Now this really doesn't sound that cool on paper, just like, yeah, these are the specials in the multiplayer, but using them against Octarians is just some fun that I can't even explain. Even weapons like the Wave Breaker do a lot of damage to Octarians, which is a lot different than obviously the multiplayer. This stage is not difficult at all. It poses really no threat or challenge because you've got all these specials, but man, I'm telling you right now, it is probably one of the most replayable because it's just satisfying to barrel through all these Octarians with your most powerful weapons in the game. Tread Heavily was a stage that only used one special, the Crab Tank, but it's that one special that made me smile the entire stage. They had you rolling around in this stage with just one special, the Crab Tank, but this one special was used in such a cool way. It was your job to take out a giant robot that pretty much had different, box targets on it. This was actually a puzzle. You couldn't just shoot the thing. You had to maneuver your way all the way to the top by rolling into the ball and rolling and jumping over obstacles and trying to make your way through the robot's moving legs and arms. Constantly made you realize how cool of a special this is if you actually get to use it longer than the 10 seconds you do in multiplayer. Then finally at the end, the robot's head opens up, allowing you to finish it off as it's also firing its last maneuvers at you. It's kind of like its own little mini boss fight, and I love this stage. To me, this is what we need to see in a grand adventure Splatoon mode, using different specials in order to get across a vast landscape and do different puzzles and obstacle courses instead of just, these floating stages in the sky that really have no connection to the story. I would love to see something like this, and maybe even the DLC really expanding on these specials a little bit more. The point sensor as a sub in this game isn't really anything crazy, and most probably competitive people will tell you the point sensor is just not one of your best choices for a sub special, but let me tell you right now, the stage Learn to Reflect is one of the coolest Splatoon missions within the entire franchise. This is so much fun. The point sensor actually has the ability to reflect off of walls, and sometimes multiple different walls, and it's your job to play off of this. It also does very slight damage, so it can activate switches and even hit specific enemies and trigger different things like ink balloons. The very end of the level will put you through an amazingly designed obstacle course. Just watch this. The Splatoon 3 team really did kill this mission, and I never thought such a kind of useless sub would be so good in this game. Before we continue to number 1, I had a few honorable mentions. I really wanted to put this one on the list too. It just didn't quite make it, which is The Ink is Lava. This stage has you throwing curling bombs to try not to touch the purple ink or you will die. This stage is probably one of the most difficult in the game, especially if you want to go after all the Powerade pickups, but it is so much fun to throw this curling bomb around, watch it bounce off things, and give you a kind of destination on where to travel. The only problem with it is you can kind of cheat it by kind of slowly moving with the squid form in order to get ink to move a little further and kind of just jumping your way to the end, but it's still a lot of fun nevertheless. Getting lost in 3 easy steps is also a really fun mission, which doesn't seem the way it's going to end, because you're going through this maze killing Octarians, and at the very, end of the maze, it'll flip it on its side, having you climb all the way back up to the top of the maze, but using the walls that were previously the floors, which is a really cool concept. And my last honorable mention is the Spirit Lifter, which will take you all the way to the top of the rockets. The very last stage in the game, you'll climb this giant tower, defeating Octarians all the way up, once again using specials, and then finally using the Zipcaster to collect all of these different energy nodes in order to power the doors to help you leave the area and get to the rocket to defeat Mr. Grizz. It's a lot of fun, and some of these Zipcaster points are really hard to hit, so make sure you're aiming perfectly, but it was a really cool ending stage. And of course, coming in at number 1, we have After Alterna. This stage is so much fun, and it is very, very difficult. Of course, as the bonus final stage of the game, it puts you through a mini gauntlet unlike anything we've seen in Splatoon before. Remember Mario Galaxy's Perfect Run or Champion's Road from Mario 3D World? Maybe not as hard as those, but definitely along the same category. This puts you through a very long gauntlet of different Octarians to fight, obstacles to maneuver around, and of course, crazy mechanics that you've been doing the entire story mode. It puts all your skills to the test in one final gauntlet, and it is fun yet challenging as ever. The first part just kind of has you doing lots of obstacle work, lots of maneuvering around using the Squid Surge and Squid Roll in order to maneuver from different platforms and make your way on moving platforms that you have to ink as well. Then you'll blast to a second portion of the stage, which in my opinion is one of the hardest portions of this entire level, where you'll be on these ink rails and you have to shoot these targets that pop up, and it can get very hectic because you have to control the camera in such a way. I really don't know how anyone could do this without motion controls. The third section, yep, you heard me right, there's a third section, uses these ink blocks, which I love these new objects in this game, where you paint the central one and it continues out into a path for you to follow, while the enemies can shorten that path. I love these blocks in the story mode, and seeing these in this bonus mode and used to their ultimate potential was so much fun. Then the fourth and final area, yeah, a fourth area, will have you going on a giant gauntlet battle royale pit with these different octolings that are obviously taken over by Mr. Grizz, which is so much fun. I wish there were more of them in the actual story mode. In fact, they teased them as if there was going to be more, and we only saw them in like 2 stages. So they throw them all at you in this little gauntlet arena area, and you have to kill them all, as they all have different weapons and specials that they'll fire at you, and it will get kind of crowded by the end. This to me was the best stage in the game and a great way to give the players one last final challenge, and I loved it. Of course, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and let me know what you guys thought were your favorite stages in the game. Did you agree with me? Are there any other ones that you think I missed? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure you leave a like and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Splatoon and Nintendo in general. And like always, I'll see you all on the next one. See ya, guys.